Alright, welcome to another episode of Vinyl Tutorial or Customization Tutorial. In this episode, we'll cover how to create Android logo that you see here on my Lotus using basic shapes only. Alright, so as you can see, you can kind of tell the robot is comprised of really circles and squares, right? The logo, the name, is a little bit more involved, but if you're patient, it's not too bad. So here we go. Now, because my card's been fully upgraded, I have all the other vinyls available now, so I could revisit this and kind of clean this up and get some spare some layers, because with the basics I used up all 50s, but of course, if you have more advanced shapes, then you have more options, you know what I mean? So I'll scroll down to the bottom layer and start from the beginning. So here we go. Circle for, of course, the head, right? And I think I used just a green, so you can see the way the head sits. And then these triangles are for antennas, so you can see, right? Or maybe I'll use the other color. There we go. One for I guess, would that be a right ear or left ear, depending on how you're looking at it, right? Which angle you're looking at it. But anyway, you get my point, right? So 2 antennas, and these squares are to essentially shape them into the line, so it's not showing up as triangle, but you know what I mean, right? So chop them off. And then of course these circles are, I think, doesn't matter, are for eyes. It's winking at you, or it's got a black eye. Right, so the eyes, and then of course the head is not a full circle, it's a half circle, so we have to use this other big rectangle to chop it off. And then inside of that we have the body, the other smaller rectangle or square. And then I got a shoulder here, the rounded shoulder, so that's the circle for each shoulder. Right, and then the arms are, because I don't have, in the basic vinyl you only have squares, so I don't have rectangles, the long ones, right? So I have to basically use this rectangle to create the full square, and then use another set of layers to essentially trim it, right? One for each arm. And then, so that does it for the robot part. Now here's the part that's a little bit more involved, the lettering, right? So actual spelling of Android, and so custom font. Here we go. So because you can, they're all kind of working within like box shape, right? I think in typography there's a name for this type of fonts, that each letter taking up like a certain amount of space. I did not study any typography, I just heard all this over the shoulder. So I'm just faking my way through here. So if anybody who's better versed in the art of typography, feel free to chime in. But yes, I will continue to fake my way through here because that's what I know. But for this one, in the center, I used mirrors, so I don't have to use up extra layers, right? Because both D and R are going to share certain lines that are on the like outer outskirts of the box shapes, right? So, and then for and, or for the letter N, I need a separate one. And that I cannot really mirror on the other side. At least I couldn't get it to line up to make it look like something. And then the That's for I and the D. I think I use it for both last two letters. Kind of share certain parts. And then here's the carving of the outside of that A. And what else am I carving out here? I guess we'll continue on and find out. Alright, so yeah, that one carves out the... Oh, okay, that's another mirrored. I must skip the layer. A and the ID part, right? So, see that's mirrored on both sides. So as you can see. And then I use the white rectangle here to chop them out because it needs to turn into a curve, right? And I can chop them out on both sides, on A and the D side of things. So then I use another mirrored circle to create the curvature on the first letter A and the curvature on the other side of the last letter D, right? So you gotta be careful with how many layers you're using up, right? Because you have with basic layers only, you burn through these layer numbers pretty quickly. So anyway, so that's A and D, the curvature, and then more squares to chop out that part of the D. And once again, because I don't have a long rectangle, I have to use two separate squares. The limitation of working with the basic vinyls. I suppose you can like angle it, right, and to extend the rectangle, but for some reason I don't think it lined up really well, or I was just okay with burning through some extra layers here. So, and here's another, since we created mirrored A and D curvature, we can use another mirrored. Here's the white circle to essentially create that hollow out the inside of the circle, right, of A and D. And then, which one is this? This one is also mirrored on both A and looks like I part of the Android. So once again, kind of first letter side and the last letter side, we can use some mirrored layers to our advantage. And then triangle to just create a smaller hole than the full rectangle or square. I don't have rectangle. What am I saying? And then another square to kind of create a cleaner line, because otherwise you end up with an angle, and that doesn't look right. Right? So that's the finishing touch on. Oh, I think I switched those around. And then of course you got to clean up that letter A. So that does it for the letter A, and this is the letter N section. So I had if you remember, I had the big rectangle or big square. Why do I keep saying rectangle? We don't have rectangle in basic shapes. So I had to take the head part of the letter N off because it's not like hard line, it's a curve on top, right? So I had to chop it off and then use two circles, as you can see, right, to create each side of the top of the letter N, and then use a square to kind of bridge the top part so it's not it has a plateau, if you will. And then just layers this. Okay, so this is inside of the letter N where we need that hollowed out, right? And then, of course, these two white circles are to carve out the inside of the letter N that we created with the outside earlier. I think I just moved that layer, didn't I? So I don't think that makes much difference, but and then moving on to the next part. Once again, I needed to chop out this is like a redoing of the letter N, except sideways this time. So I'm chopping off vertically along the side, so it's not a hard angle, but instead it's gonna be curved. You can kind of tell, except with the D, I don't need to use up 2 circles because it's just gonna be one round, like half circle kind of thing going on the outside, and of course I would need to use the inside to cut out the inside. So that's the letter D, and I think I shuffle those layers again. Come on, and then of course you gotta carve out inside. So that's the letter D, and here's the letter R. So this one, we have that half circle thing, except it's much smaller this time because it's only taking up top half of the letter, as you can see. So it's just a smaller version of the same thing, and you can see the next layer is the circle, and then you can see the next layer is the white circle. That's going to be the inside, as you can see, to make that curvature. And then you notice like that white circle does overlap the bottom side of the straight line. So that's why I end up using this layer, another layer, to make that straight. I feel like once again I shuffle the order again. Yeah, I did, didn't I? So this one is to kind of clean up, right? The letter R. So there's the middle straight line of the letter R, and then of course this is the bottom part of the R because it's also round, but this one is chopped off at the bottom. I think this one is underside of the R. Yes, right. And then the next one is of course the still letter R, but since I made the bottom circle, I need to carve that out as well. So there it is. And then, whoa, don't go there. And this is the one that chops off that circle that I created. So it's straight through. And then letter O doesn't get much more straight than that, right? Circle on the outside and circle on the inside. So there you go. That's all 50 layers using basic circles and squares only to create Android logo and the robot, I guess, Mascot, right? And they are I think the logo was the mascot was done with a paint through mode, so it shows up on the other side. The reason why I didn't do the mirror for that one is all these little what would you call it, contoured body. If you use mirror, some places it doesn't quite cover, the base paint shows through, so the robot ends up with more injuries like cuts through his body. You wouldn't want that. So there you go. So hopefully with the more layers, more advanced layers, paid layers available now, I can come back and clean up a bit more, so I don't have to use up nearly as many layers. I might just do that, and then I can of course add even more vinyl stuff on this car. But for now, this video was really about using basic layers only to create something that's maybe not as basic. I don't know, maybe some of you guys find this still very basic. Anyway, so that does it for this episode of Vinyl Tutorial. So have fun, good luck, and we'll see you on the track. Take care.